Welcome to this explainer. Today we are completely rethinking how we evaluate value, money, and wealth in today's economy. Most of us are taught a very specific, almost rigid way to look at money, right? Save it, find the absolute lowest prices, stretch every single dollar. But what if that conventional wisdom is exactly the thing keeping people struggling? Today, we're breaking down a radically different perspective on wealth. We're going to explore the fundamental difference between holding on to depreciating currency and actually acquiring real, tangible assets. Okay, let's dive right in with a question that honestly might sound a little crazy at first glance. Why on earth might a $50,000 watch be considered a vastly smarter, more responsible purchase than a simple $50 watch? Now, most people would immediately call a $50,000 watch a massive waste of money. They'd think, hey, I can get the exact same utility, just telling time, from a cheap plastic watch. But as we're going to see today, that reaction is rooted in a very specific mindset. It's a mindset hyper-focused on the price tag rather than the underlying asset. By the end of this explainer, you'll understand exactly why the wealthy look at that expensive watch and see a financial shield, while they look at the cheap watch and literally see money being thrown away. To get there, we'll cover 4 key areas today. 1, the mindset of wealth. 2, Gresham's law explained. 3, the impact of inflation. And 4, investing in real assets. All right, section 1, the mindset of wealth, price versus long-term value. So this mindset, it's really all about looking way past the initial price tag to understand long-term value. There's just a stark contrast between what is actually being valued here. A scarcity mindset looks at a purchase and asks, how cheap can I get this? The whole goal is to spend as little cash as possible so that more cash can be saved in the bank. The wealth-building mindset, however, completely ignores the desire for a cheap price. Instead, they ask, is this item going to retain its value? Is there intrinsic commodity value here? They aren't trying to save cash. They're actively trying to acquire things that hold long-term value. If you think getting something for cheap automatically makes you smart, well, this philosophy argues that you might actually be trapping yourself in a poor financial mindset. Let's see how this mindset shapes everyday purchasing habits. Think back to that $50,000 watch we mentioned earlier. Specifically, let's say a solid gold Rolex Daytona, like the famous Paul Newman watch. When someone buys that, they aren't really buying a watch, are they? They're buying the gold and the rarity. They're literally wearing a tangible asset on their wrist. If the economy struggles and currency loses its value, the gold in that watch actually becomes more valuable. On the flip side, buying a cheap smartwatch or a $50 plastic watch means buying something that depreciates to zero the absolute second you put it on. And hey, it's not just about watches. Someone might spend a total fortune on a trendy designer handbag, but unless it's an incredibly rare collectible, it's really just a depreciating good destined for a thrift store someday. Contrast that with someone taking delivery of a highly rare collector car. It might seem like an outrageous expense to the average person driving a practical commuter car, but that rare car is an appreciating asset. It literally makes the owner richer over time. Moving on to section 2, Gresham's law explained, good money versus bad money. To really grasp why the wealthy prefer gold watches and rare cars over just keeping cash in the bank, we have to understand the economic physics at play. And this brings us to Gresham's law. Now, this is an economic principle that has been observed for thousands of years. It simply states that bad money drives out good money. So what does that actually mean for us? It means that when a system is flooded with currency that's constantly losing its value, that's the bad money, people will naturally hoard the good money, the currency or assets that actually hold intrinsic value. The good money goes straight into hiding, locked away in vaults, while people rush to spend the bad money before it becomes totally worthless. You can literally hold this concept in the palm of your hand. On one side, imagine a 1964 Kennedy half dollar. It's made of real, physical silver. On the other side, a modern paper $10 bill. If you offered the average person a choice between a 50-cent piece and a $10 bill, most would snatch up the $10 without a second thought, right? But the wealthy, the people who truly understand money, would take the 1964 half dollar. Why? Because the modern $10 bill is fiat currency. It's bad money that the government can just print infinitely, constantly watering down its purchasing power. The silver half dollar is good money. It has intrinsic, unprintable value. So following Gresham's law, the smart money takes the silver, hides it away in a private vault, and actively spends the paper dollars to just get rid of them. Which brings us to section 3, the impact of inflation, the ripple effect of money printing. So what happens when all that bad money keeps flooding the system? Let's walk through the exact mechanics of the ripple effect of money printing on a massive scale. Step 1. Ever since the dollar was taken off the gold standard back in 1971, governments have had the ability to print excess fiat money to solve their problems. Step 2, because there's suddenly way more money in the system chasing the exact same amount of goods, the value of that currency drops. Step 3, this causes the nominal price of real, tangible assets to absolutely skyrocket. Gold, real estate, apartment complexes, oil wells, their prices go up not necessarily because they're better, but simply because the currency used to measure them is weaker. And then step 4. The tragic side effect here is that basic, everyday goods become totally unaffordable for the average citizen who relies on a fixed income of that depreciating currency. So the crucial point is this brutal macroeconomic reality. When governments aggressively print money, the rich get richer and the poor and middle class get hammered. And guys, this isn't an accident, it's a mathematical certainty. The rich get richer because their wealth is safely parked in assets, like those gold watches, the rare cars, and the real estate, which all explode in price when inflation hits. The middle class gets crushed because their wealth is parked in cash savings, and their incomes simply cannot keep up with the rising cost of living. Let's look at how this plays out in everyday life. For the asset owner, inflation is actually incredibly profitable. The value of their apartment buildings climbs. If they own oil wells, their revenues surge as the price of oil goes up. But for the average consumer, this is devastating. When the price of oil surges, it costs more to put gas in a car. And because it takes gas to transport a chicken or a carton of eggs to the local supermarket, the price of basic groceries absolutely spikes. The asset owner profits from the inflation, while the average person is left standing in the aisle wondering why a simple chicken at the grocery store suddenly costs $10. All right, our final section, Section 4, Investing in Real Assets, Leveraging Debt and Acquiring Value. Now that we completely understand the problem, how do the wealthy actually navigate this environment to their advantage? Well, consider the number 15,000. This represents a staggering trajectory for hard assets. Historically, smart investors were buying gold when it was just $50 an ounce. Today, it sits in the thousands, let's say around $3,000. But with continuous, non-stop money printing, there are predictions that it could eventually soar to $15,000 an ounce. That's a 5-time increase. This is exactly why you secure real gold in a private vault. You aren't hoping the gold miraculously changes its chemical makeup. You're betting that the paper money used to buy it will just continue to become worthless. Which brings us to what is probably the most counterintuitive yet absolutely powerful rule of wealth building. Use debt to buy real assets. Look, most people are terrified of debt. They're taught to aggressively pay off their mortgages and live completely debt-free. But in a system flooded with bad money, debt isn't always a burden. It's actually a tool. This translates into a truly brilliant financial strategy. Think about it. When you take out a loan, say to buy an apartment building, you are borrowing fiat currency. Because of inflation, the real value of that debt continually goes down. It becomes easier and easier to pay back over time because you're paying it back with cheaper, inflated dollars. Meanwhile, the real estate you purchased with that debt continually goes up in nominal value, vastly outpacing the original loan. You are literally using fake, depreciating money to acquire a real, appreciating asset. You let inflation destroy the debt while it simultaneously inflates the value of your asset. It is a masterful use of Gresham's law in everyday life. So we arrive at the ultimate takeaway for today, and it really just comes down to a matter of mindfulness. Take a hard look at your own financial habits. When you make a purchase, are you actually acquiring an asset, or are you just spending money on things that will be completely worthless tomorrow? Are you cheering because you saved a little bit of cash on a cheap item, completely ignoring that your cash is slowly dying in the bank? The next time you look at a luxury good, a piece of real estate, or even just the cash in your wallet, I challenge you to look past the price tag. Ask yourself, am I holding good money or bad money? Because how you answer that question today will entirely dictate your wealth tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep thinking critically, and I'll catch you next time.